The rain hammered against the sidewalk like 1,000 tiny fists, each drop a reminder of how cold the world could be. Sarah Martinez pressed her forehead against the coffee shop window, watching the downpour blur the city lights into watercolor streaks. She had exactly $43 in her checking account, a stack of unpaid medical bills in her apartment, and a heart that somehow still believed tomorrow might be better. What she didn't know was that someone was watching her, someone who would change everything. Sarah's shift at Rosie's Diner had ended 20 minutes ago, but she couldn't bring herself to leave. Outside, an elderly homeless man huddled in the doorway of the abandoned bookstore. Across the street, his thin jacket doing nothing against the November chill. She watched him shiver, watched him pull his knees closer to his chest, and felt something crack open inside her. Her hand moved to her apron pocket, fingers finding the crumpled bills from tonight's tips. $47. It was supposed to cover groceries for the week, maybe put a dent in the electricity bill that was already past due. Her daughter Emma needed new shoes for school. The sole on her left sneaker had worn through, and Sarah had been putting cardboard inside it every morning, pretending not to notice Emma's brave smile. But that man was freezing. Sarah pushed open the diner door, the bell chiming above her head. "Hey, Marco," she called to the cook. "Can I get a coffee and whatever soup we have left to go?" Marco raised an eyebrow. "Your shift's over, Sarah. You don't have to—" "I know, just please?" 5 minutes later, she was crossing the street, rain soaking through her thin jacket, a foam container of beef stew and a large coffee clutched in her hands. The man looked up as she approached, eyes wary and tired. "Sir? I thought you might be hungry." She held out the food, trying to smile through chattering teeth. His weathered face transformed. "God bless you, miss. God bless you." His hands shook as he took the container, and Sarah noticed the wedding ring still on his finger, tarnished but there. He'd been someone else once. They all had been. She reached into her pocket and pulled out $20. It was all she could spare. It wasn't enough, but it was something. "Please, get somewhere warm tonight." The man's eyes filled with tears. I can't." "Please," Sarah insisted, pressing the money into his palm. "Just stay safe." She turned to go, her own eyes burning when she heard his voice crack. "My name's Robert Chin, and I'll remember this. I'll remember you." What Sarah didn't see was the man in the expensive charcoal suit, standing under the awning of the boutique hotel next door. What she couldn't have known was that Marcus Wellington, founder of Wellington Industries, had watched the entire exchange while waiting for his car service, his phone in hand, recording without really knowing why. Marcus had spent the evening at a charity gala, writing checks with more zeros than most people saw in a year, accepting handshakes and praise from people who wanted something from him. He'd felt hollow, performative. Then, he'd stepped outside and seen something real. He watched Sarah disappear around the corner. Her shoulders hunched against the rain and made a decision. The next morning, Sarah arrived at Rosie's Diner to find her manager, Gloria, waiting with an expression she couldn't read. "Sarah, honey, someone's here to see you." "He's in booth 7. Her stomach dropped. Was it someone about the medical bills? A lawyer? Her mind raced through possibilities, none of them good. Marcus Wellington stood as she approached, and Sarah recognized wealth in the way he carried himself. The watch on his wrist probably cost more than her car. "Miss Martinez? Do you have a moment?" "I don't have any money if that's what this is about," she said quickly, defensively. "Please sit. I'm not here to collect anything." "Quite the opposite, actually." He gestured to the booth, his expression kind. "I saw what you did last night." "For Robert." Sarah's face flushed hot. "I don't understand." "I was standing across the street. I watched you give that man food and money. And Marcus paused, choosing his words carefully. "I watched you give away what looked like everything you had. So I did some asking around. Gloria told me about Emma's shoes, about your mother's hospital bills, about how you work doubles whenever you can." Panic rose in Sarah's chest. "Am I in trouble? Did I do something wrong?" "No," Marcus said quickly. "No, you did something extraordinary. You did something I've forgotten how to do." He pulled an envelope from his jacket pocket. "Sarah, I've spent the last 20 years building a company. Making money, writing checks to charities so I can feel like I'm making a difference. But last night I watched someone with nothing give everything. and it reminded me what kindness actually looks like. He slid the envelope across the table. Sarah stared at it like it might explode. Inside is a check that will cover your mother's medical bills. All of them. There's also a bank draft for $50,000 to help you get back on your feet. New shoes for Emma, a reliable car, whatever you need. Sarah couldn't breathe. The diner sounds faded to a distant hum. I can't. This isn't. Why would you? Because you reminded me that generosity isn't about how much you have. It's about how much you're willing to give. You taught me something last night. And this is me trying to learn the lesson. Marcus's voice was thick with emotion. I've been looking for purpose, Sarah. Real purpose. And watching you give $20 that meant everything showed me what I've been missing. Tears spilled down Sarah's cheeks, hot and unstoppable. I was just trying to help. He was cold. Exactly. You saw someone suffering and you acted. No cameras, no recognition, no tax write-off. Just human kindness in its purest form. Marcus leaned forward. But there's more. Robert Chen, the man you helped? I found him this morning. Got him into a shelter, connected him with services. Turns out he's a veteran. Served 2 tours in Afghanistan. Lost his wife to cancer, fell on hard times. He's getting the help he needs now. Because of you. Sarah pressed her hands to her face, shoulders shaking with sobs. Gloria appeared with tissues, her own eyes wet, and slid into the booth beside Sarah, wrapping an arm around her. There's one more thing, Marcus said softly. Wellington Industries has a foundation. We fund community programs, education initiatives, disaster relief. I'd like you to join our board of directors. Help us make sure we're actually making a difference, not just checking boxes. You don't need business experience, Sarah. You have something more valuable. You have a heart that still works the way hearts are supposed to work. Sarah looked up, mascara streaking her face, clutching the envelope like a life raft. I don't know what to say. Say you'll think about it. Say you'll let someone help you the way you helped Robert. Say you'll let kindness come full circle. The diner had gone quiet. Other customers had stopped eating, unabashedly listening, wiping their own eyes. Gloria squeezed Sarah's shoulder. Girl, you better say yes. Sarah laughed through her tears, a sound like something breaking open and healing at the same time. Yes, okay. I'll try. I'll do my best. Marcus smiled, really smiled, for the first time in years. That's all any of us can do. 3 months later, Sarah stood in her new apartment, watching Emma run circles in her new sneakers, laughing so hard she could barely breathe. On the counter was a letter from Robert, thanking her again, telling her about his new job at a warehouse, about the therapy sessions that were helping, about how he'd reconnected with his daughter. Taped to the refrigerator was a photo from the Wellington Foundation's latest food drive. Sarah in the center, surrounded by volunteers, her smile radiant and real. She thought about that rainy night, about choosing to cross the street when she could have walked away, about how she'd thought she was alone in that moment of giving, invisible in her kindness. But someone had been watching. Someone had seen. And that simple act of humanity had rippled outward, in ways she never could have imagined, touching lives, changing trajectories, proving that no gesture of compassion is ever truly small. In a world that often felt cold and hard, Sarah had learned the most important lesson of all. Kindness isn't measured in dollars. It's measured in moments, in choices, in the courage to give, even when you have almost nothing left to give. And sometimes, when you least expect it, the universe is watching, ready to remind you that goodness multiplies, that generosity begets generosity, and that one person's humanity can ignite a flame in someone else's heart. Sarah had thought she was alone that night, but she was wrong. She'd never been alone at all.